Wait, start over. I'm not ready. Okay.
Hey guys, thank you for joining Testimony Tuesday for another amazing testimony. If you haven't watched the other testimonies, just stop this video, go back and watch the other one. Or you know what, you can watch this and then go back and watch the other one. Anyways, thank you for joining us for Testimony Tuesday. Can you please let us know who you are and why you're here with us today?
Hello, everybody. My name is Shewa, aka Shewa, as most people know me, and I'm here to give my testimony about knowing when to leave in the workplace and dealing with somewhat hostile work environments.
Okay, so give us 3 interesting facts about you.
Okay. If you can't tell from my name, I'm Nigerian, Yoruba to be exact. However, I've actually never been to Nigeria, but that's changing come 2019.
Just like me.
And also, what's another fact about me? My favorite movie is 10 Things I Hate About You, which is a spin-off of Shakespeare's play, The Shrew. And I identify most with the main character.
What's her name?
Catalina Shepard, something like that.
It's the main character.
Yeah, she's the main character. But basically, she's influenced my upbringing. And my third fact is my favorite city in the U.S. so far is LA. Even though I love Atlanta and I live in Atlanta, but I just like, outside of the fakeness and stuff, I just like the kind of the vibe that LA gives.
Just like she mentioned earlier, she's gonna talk about the workplace, but you know, we're gonna just go a little bit back into her past to see how she got to that point. So tell us about your undergrad experience. And I know that your undergrad major was in accounting. So tell us why you even chose accounting as your degree.
Gotcha. So my undergrad degree is in accounting and finance. Had to throw the finance in there. However, when I was in high school, I actually was going to be a pharmacist. I'm Nigerian, so there's not that many occupations that you can strive for. And I decided I wanted to be a pharmacist until I was a senior in high school. And my senior year, I mean, I don't understand why, but all my electives were business classes that I selected, and I took an accounting class. And I told myself, you know, I wouldn't mind doing this for a couple years. So maybe I'll just do this instead of being a pharmacist, because I was good at math and I was also good in science. And I actually went home, told my dad a couple days before graduation. My dad was not happy at all. I actually cried. It's really sad. But yeah, I had to fight just to major in accounting. So there's that. But as far as my undergrad experience, I went to the University of West Georgia in Carrollton, Georgia. It was great. My first year and my junior year, I think, were like my highest GPAs, only because my first year I didn't really know that many people. And then I made friends. So then basically I just unfortunately partied a lot and basically went to work and put class and school last on the totem pole of my life. But yes, but I did graduate in 4 years, and I did get a job right after I graduated at a hospital in Snellville, Georgia, as an accountant.
That's cool.
So it was a success, to say the least.
What were your plans, your initial plans post undergrad? Did you initially want to work at a hospital? Did you decide to get your MBA? And as you guys know, I'm an accountant too. I got my undergrad in accounting. So did you strive to become a CPA? Like, just explain that process a little bit.
Okay, so as I kind of mentioned earlier, I had to like basically beg my dad to be an accounting major, right? So I actually made a deal with him, and I told him that I would be a CPA. And the reason why I said that was because he told me accountants just want to take the easy way out of life, and it's just so easy, right? Like, you just don't want to work hard. That was his impression.
Oh, yeah?
Right. I was like, what do you mean?
Those classes hard.
Right. So I was like, okay, well, Dad, but look, these are the stats of CPAs. This is what they make. This is what you have to do after you get your degree. You have to take this, this exam. It's 4 parts. It It takes like 2 years. Like, it's challenging. It's not easy. So I made that deal with him. So when I graduated, this is actually funny, but when I graduated undergrad, my dad said, okay, now it's time to study for your CPA. And mind you, I had just started a job at Eastside Medical Center in Snellville, like I said before. And how I even got that was in undergrad, I worked at Emory Johns Creek Hospital in the kitchen. I networked, and I was a really good employee. So when it came time for me to graduate, they didn't have a position for me, but somebody in HR, her husband had an opening at a different hospital. And so I basically interviewed with him and got the job and worked there for about a year. But in order to avoid studying for the CPA, because if anybody knows about the CPA, it's not an easy task at all. It's not. So I applied to grad school so I could tell my dad that I couldn't study for that because I was in grad school. And
that was actually a good idea.
I mean, outside of the death, but yeah. But I will say this. Look, I will say this though. So even though my GPA wasn't the best that it could have been, it was good enough to allow me to apply to a graduate program and not have to take the GMAT. Like, when I tell you, the whole MBA program thing, it happened like that. It was literally like, I went online, I went to Brunel. I don't think I mentioned that, but I think they might have sent me a letter or something. I went online, I applied. I don't think I had a teacher's recommendation like you're supposed to.
Wow.
I didn't take the GMAT like you were supposed to.
Did you have to take the GRE? Anything?
I didn't take anything. What? Yeah. Because basically they have this thing where if your GPA was like a 3 point something, you are like, they'll waive some of the requirements. However, I'm sorry for all my other Nigerian people out there. My GPA was at a 3 point something. It was close. There was one teacher that was not messing with me, and that she caused me to fall below 3.0. However, they're like, well, you're close enough and you have a job, so we'll accept you.
Wow.
But that's basically what my postgraduate plans were, and that's what I did. I graduated with my MBA in 2014, and then I took a break from 2014 to basically the end of 2015, and then decided, okay, get your CPA. Like, stop playing games, stop trying to like make excuses, just start studying. And it was a long process. I did it in just under like 2 years. And if you know anything about it, essentially it's 4 exams. Right now, each exam is 4 hours apiece. You can only take one exam within like a testing window, like one specific section or whatever within a certain testing window. And you apply to take it. You have to get your like notice to schedule. It's like a whole process. It's not like, oh, I'm going to take the exam today. And it's like literally a whole study like course that you have to go through in order to pass, because even though you have a degree in accounting doesn't mean you'll pass the exam. And even though you are an accountant, most accountants only work in one specific area of accounting, and there are plenty for you to like be good at your job and not pass, because I was good at my job and I did not pass the first time.
Okay, so you worked at the hospital, you got your MBA, you studied for the CPA exam. So this rolls into my next question. How was your time, your experience working at your first firm?
Okay, so...
And how was the work environment?
Gotcha. So just to give some insight, I first started as a staff accountant at Eastside Medical Center. And then a year later, I went into a manufacturing company, did accounting there for about a year. And then the firm she's referring to is... an equity firm in the Atlanta area that I worked at, where I was a senior accountant. And that's at the point where I decided to start studying for my CPA exam. And so in doing that, there was one other person in the accounting department that was also studying. So we kind of started around the same time. However, because I was still within like my first year, I didn't know exactly how an entire accounting cycle year with my company would go. So at the top of 2016, I decided, okay, I'm going to start studying. But the first 4 months of the year are usually the busiest, because you have like year end, you have quarter end, you have tax season, you got audit. It's a lot going on. So I didn't realize that, but me thinking that I'm like this superwoman, which I am, but understanding the type of superwoman that I am, me overexerting myself, I basically thought like, okay, you know, I casually studied. I stopped going out. I stopped being as social as I was and thought I was prepared when I really didn't put in that much work, as much work as I should have. Right. And so I took the first exam. In order to pass, you have to have a 75. First exam, I got a 74. I was devastated. I thought maybe this isn't for me. And the work environment was definitely stressful. There was definitely an incident that I had with my boss, who was my manager at the time as well. And he, and it happened like literally like a couple days right before I was about to take the exam. It really stressed me out. And I'm not blaming my failures on that situation, but that situation allowed me to be where I am today in a sense. And I know a lot of people say that, but it's actually very true. So to answer your question though, like the work environment was okay. It wasn't the most conducive. It definitely helped because you're allowed to like leave early and do all this other stuff. But when you're super busy, leaving early means nothing because you still have work that needs to be done and deadlines that need to be met.
I know about deadlines. So with the whole point of this testimony was really just how you dealt with a stressful boss in a stressful work environment and how you got out of that and how you didn't decide to remain complacent even though you were making good money. So can you just talk about working with a stressful boss and the kind of things that he did in your work environment, how you did work with, because I know like her testimony, but the people that you worked with, how they really weren't helpful at all. And I know some of you guys out there, you work somewhere and you're doing everything you can and you still feel underappreciated. So if you're going to just talk about that experience. Okay.
So just to give you a full picture of the work environment that I worked in, it actually was a really great environment on the surface, right? And so essentially it kind of goes into, I don't know if this is like a proverb or something, but all that glitters isn't gold, because we have great benefits. It was great pay. There was great room for advancement. Like I was promoted within working there from a year from like a senior accountant to an accounting manager, which I didn't even think that I could do, but I did because of the work that I put in, and I didn't even have my CPA at the time. I like just started studying and then was offered a promotion, right? Which is really cool, right? So on the surface, it looks like, oh, everything's great, like your life is growing in a great trajectory, right? But the thing that a lot of people don't tell you about corporate America, and especially in some private firms, is like the microaggressions that first you get to experience. And I'm not even saying that just from my previous boss. It's more or less like just in general. Like microaggressions, when you notice them, can be very frustrating, right? And can definitely hinder you. And however, to paint the picture about my boss though, he was the type of guy who he praised you all the time, right? Like this was kind of his like method, right? But, and a lot of times he kind of crippled a lot of people, not me necessarily, because I just have a thirst for knowledge. So I have learned to ask the right questions to find the answers that I need. But when you're working on a team and some of the people on the team are being crippled while other people are overexerting themselves, it can allow somebody to burn themselves out, right? And then also for him, when he's stressed, there's no reserve of, oh, I'm stressed, but I'm not going to show that to my subordinates or to the people that I work with. Like, he will go off of nowhere, right? Like, just explode. And me explaining that leads to this first story where right before I was about to take my exam, like I said, it was busy season, and I had made a mistake, and I own up to my mistakes. That's fine, right? Like, your mistakes actually are lessons that allow you to be better and allow you to grow. So I made a mistake, another employee made a mistake. So I made a mistake based off of that mistake. So it was like a domino effect, right? So when I called him, because he was in his office and I was at my desk, and I said, hey, if I did this, how can I fix it, right? And he was like, wait, what? Come to my office. And I was like, okay. So I hang up the phone and then I'm looking and I'm like, well, I think I know how to fix it, right? So he like storms out and he's like, what are you waiting for? And I was like, well, I think I can, I can figure it out, or I think we can fix it. And then he just goes off. Like, before, when I first started there, it was, oh my gosh, you're so smart, you're so brilliant, you're so fast, you're so whatever, right? Make this mistake, a fixable mistake at that, right? How could you be so stupid? You think you're so smart, you don't want to listen to nobody. He's just like yelling at me, right? And it's already like a stressful time, and at the time I'm 26, I had never experienced something like that. I didn't know what to do. And the person who made the mistake that kind of allowed me to make my mistake, because I even asked for confirmation before I did what I did, she was sitting there quiet. And I was like, he's like, who told you to do that? And so I'm like waiting for her to speak up, and she's not saying anything. So he goes, no, I'm serious. Who told you? Who gave you the audacity to do that? And I'm just like, I look at her, and then she's like stuttering. Well, I told her that maybe if she did it, it would work. So then he kind of goes off on her, like, who told you you could give her instruction? And in my mind, just again to paint the picture, the woman was actually my direct manager. Right? So even though he was my boss, he was her boss as well, but she was my manager. So we worked on the portfolio together. So she does actually have the authority and the right to tell me, yeah, I think that might work. You should try it. And I have the right to do it. Right? And so he kind of just like goes off on this tangent. He's he's like storming up and down the office. He's going into like other people's offices, like, let me tell you what, like, but he's like yelling, right? So everybody can hear it. And at the time we didn't have an HR because it was a very small company. There's no protection. There's nobody there to like mediate the situation. And he's like red in the face. He's like yelling. He's just doing the most, right? And so like, although at the time I'm like flustered because I've never been in a situation, I didn't know if I was about to get fired. I don't know what was about to happen. Like, cause he was just mad. And he just kept storming back and forth. And then after he had his little tantrum, we fixed it. He did become a little condescending, right? Like, well, do you know how to do this? Do you know how to do that? As far as like, just like little stuff, like me logging in or me like clicking a button, like stuff like that. And I'm just like, yeah. And it's like a part of me like wanted to cry because I didn't know what to do. It's like, I'm scared. I don't know how to deal with this situation. I thought I had like the perfect job, and then all of a sudden it just blows up in my face. So after we fix it, because it was fixed, and it actually took 30 seconds to fix it, but clearly 15 minutes of him having a tantrum and storming up and down, whatever. You know, it was a Friday, and so I logged off. My manager that was next to me basically said, don't take it personal. He's just really stressed out. You know, like, it's okay. He does that sometimes. But in my mind, the way he was talking to me and the way he was talking to her, and she was a much older woman than me. My dad don't even talk to me like that. Mm-hmm. So I'm not about to let another man, I don't care how old you are, talk to me any kind of way. If my dad, the man who created me, right, who I came from, me. Yes, he fawned me, yes, right. My dad and my mom don't even talk to me. My family don't talk to me like that. So no. So, anyways, I leave work. I'm like real flustered. I call some friends. I'm trying to talk to them. I don't know what to do. But then I'm also stressed out because I'm taking my first CPA exam on Tuesday. And I'm just like, oh my gosh. And so it's like something that's like just on my mind, heavy on my heart. And coincidentally, the next day, I'm like thinking of all the stuff I have to do. I'm like running around. And me being so distracted and also being distraught in that, I got into a car accident on 85 North. And basically what happened is that a car in front of me stopped, but I was so like not where I needed to be mentally that I literally just ran into the back of his car. Because there was like an accident in like way ahead. So all the cars just stopped. And I didn't notice that. So when I like realized, okay, it's time to brake, I started pressing the brakes, but it was too late. And I ran into the back of his car. And and at the time I drove an Audi that was not cheap at all. So financially it set me back a little bit because that cost me thousands of dollars that I was not ready to pay at the time. And it like, and granted, I love my family because they definitely did come through, like, and also some of my like best friends came, picked me up from the accident, took me like to go get the information from the tow like yard and everything like that, and definitely helped me through the process. But still mentally I was stressed because even though I have this exam in my mind, because I always used to put work ahead of a lot of things, I was thinking, do I have a job when I go back to work on Wednesday, right? And how am I supposed to act at this job? Because at first, I was so confident in myself that, you know, oh, I'm so smart. They keep telling me, I'm so smart. I'm so this. Keep doing what you're doing. So then I do what you keep telling me to do, but then I get backlash for it. So I'm like, I don't know what to do. Right?
Wow. That, guys, like, Shewa is so amazing. Like, as you already heard, but everything she's saying is, like, pretty true. Like, she's pretty amazing.
Thank you.
But we could talk about this boss and the work environment and the craziness all day. And it's like, we have worked in crazy, stressful environments, like all of us have. But the highlight of this testimony is that you transitioned out of that. So the next question is, how exactly did you, can you please give us tips? Matter of fact, can you please give us tips on how to handle that situation professionally and transition out? I just want you to talk about the, because
Okay.
guys, when you hear this, she literally took care of her mental health and left. So I want you to tell me about that part.
Okay. So the best way to explain it would be that, so long story short, I don't work there anymore. But how I transitioned from not working there was the story that I just told you happened in 2016, right? So if you're thinking, okay, what happened when you went back to work? Well, my former boss is also the type of guy where he'll explode on you. He's like one of those people who like, oh, I explode on you and I said crazy things to you, but I'm gonna act like it didn't happen. I'm gonna be super nice to you the next time I see you. So then that way, if you respond back to me, I know that all is well and all is forgiven. And that's literally him, right? So I get back to work. He acts like nothing ever happened. He's like, how was the exam? He's all excited and everything. And in my mind, I'm like, get out of my face, right? like don't talk to me right now. Even like try to make jokes about the situation before when I was like training people. He'd like come up and make a joke like, oh, you're not doing this, are you? And I'm like, that's not funny, right? So anyways, I got over the situation and I just continued to be myself, right? Like I would pour a lot of myself into my job. So I literally like did what I had to do, worked all the hours that I needed to work, and eventually figured out a way, because mind you, I'm still supposed to be studying for the CPA exam, right? And I failed the first exam. Actually, I incorporated studying into my work schedule, or into my life schedule, honestly, and made it work. And then essentially for a year and a half after that, I took all 4 exams. I passed all 4 exams, not without a struggle, but I definitely passed, became a CPA. I was also promoted during that time to accounting manager, which is really cool. Got a good pay bump. And so again, you know, everything seems like it's great, right? But then fast forward to now, I'm no longer distracted by studying for my CPA exam. I'm starting to realize I thought I was busy because I was studying for a CPA exam and working. But then I learned I was also busy because I was doing more work than I should have been doing. Because me being a manager and me having people under me, a lot of the work that they should have done, essentially, either if they did it, they didn't do it wholeheartedly like they should have, so not to like completeness, and there was no accountability. Like if I try to hold somebody accountable for being lackluster in their job, then my boss, the same man, would kind of come behind me and be like, no, you're fine, you don't have to do this, you don't have to do that. And so that caused me to have to do more work to essentially have the same type of, or at least to meet the requirements that we needed to meet, because I take pride in my work and I'm not about to stamp or sign anything or put my name on anything that I personally can't stand behind. And that's just, it is what it is. And so it brings us to 2018, where now I'm starting to realize that because people aren't being held accountable and because I'm overworking myself, I actually ended up burning out. And so how I ended up transitioning was I had a little issue with my boss again, right? This wasn't as aggressive, but this is where the microaggressions kind of come into play, where I was busy working on some things and I told him I was busy, right? And he knew I was busy, and he had called me and he asked me for something, and he made it seem it was like so nonchalant and just casually asked me a question about a portfolio I was working on, and I gave him the wrong answer. And I didn't mean to, and it wasn't on purpose, but it's because my mind is somewhere else. And he then takes the answer I give to him and he tells his boss. And mind you, I've worked with his boss personally on other things anyway, so he knows the type of person I am. He knows my work ethic. So his boss basically tells him, no, that's the wrong answer. I think you need to go back and check. By the time all that happened, I had left for the day, and my boss calls me. I don't answer because I've decided that after a certain point in time of the day, I'm not answering the phone and we can worry about it tomorrow. And then he sent an email, which makes me think that you had time to think about what you sent. And basically in the email told me that he's sensing that we're having a problem because I act like things that he asked me to do is beneath me. But being somebody who has come in on the weekends and didn't tell anybody and has worked countless hours to make sure things are in like top-notch shape or up to a certain standard, that kind of is unsettling, because what's the point of me pouring in my energy into this job if you're telling me that I act like I'm too good to do things, or if I act like things are beneath me, but I'm doing things that other people should be doing anyway. So that is kind of like a, no, that's a wake-up call. And how I transitioned out of that was, by the grace of God, while all that was happening, I actually got a message on LinkedIn, like I do all the time. And for some odd reason, I replied to this one message on LinkedIn about a job opportunity. And I said, no thanks, because I'm already a manager. This job is for a senior accountant role. And also, the pay is not, like, one, I'm not taking a step back. If I'm already a manager, I'm not stepping down. That's one thing, right? So he says to me, well, how about you just send me your resume anyway, and I'll see what I can do. And I go, okay, sure, fine. So send him my resume. He comes back the next day, like, okay, this is really weird. I've never seen something happen this fast, but they want to talk to you on Friday. Mind you, this is Thursday. And this is coincidentally the day after my boss had sent the email. So I go, okay. So I come in on Friday. I have a chat with the people that wanted to talk to me. And then I leave and I get a call back from the recruiter, and he says, they want you to come back on Monday. Can you come in? And I'm like, sure. And then I'm telling them, you know, or I'm at least telling the recruiter, this is not for like a senior role, right? This is for like an accounting manager or something. And he's explained to me, yes, it is. It's just super new. They don't really have a job description yet, which, you know, makes you a little weary. So you're like, oh, I don't know. So I come in on Monday. I was supposed to talk to one of the VPs. The VP wasn't there. So I was like, oh man, they wasted my time. But then they go, no, it's okay. You can just talk to the president. And I'm like, okay.
Mr. President.
Right. I'm like, I said, oh, I'm not ready for that. But I go, okay. So I have a conversation with the president of the company. At the end of our conversation, I ask him, do you think I'm a good fit? And he responds to me, and mind you, we've been speaking for about an hour at this point. He says, oh, within the first 3 minutes, I knew you'd be a great fit at this company. And I said, whoa. Like, usually for interviews, I practice, I prepare, but because this was so last minute and I'm still busy at my other job, there was no, like, preparation. So it's really only God's grace that this happened. Then that's Monday, right? Tuesday, job offer comes. And I said, and I made it very firm, which is something that I want to, like, preach to people. If you know your worth, only demand that and nothing less. Don't ever settle. Because he said, well, they typically pay, you know, around this amount. And so that's what you should probably expect your job offer to be if you get one. I said, okay, well, I'm not going for anything lower than this number as my base. Not anything lower, then there's no point in me leaving, right? Like, I'm not, like, there's no point. So the recruiter says, okay. So he comes back with the job offer. The job offer is the exact number that I wanted for my base, which means I still have a bonus. And then on top of that,
give them that base with a bonus.
Right. But then on top of that, some of the benefits include employer paid healthcare at 100%. Yeah. And so the thing is, which is very funny, is my last job did the exact same thing. However, that's why I said, oh, all that glitters isn't gold, because we had a lot of great benefits on my last job. We had a kitchen with snacks. On Fridays, we had like donuts. Like, it was a great job. It was like nice, swanky office space that we worked in. It was pretty cool. It was in Buckhead, so like basically parking close enough to the bars, right by MARTA. Like, so many benefits. But this new job, because a lot of times at my old job, a lot of people would say, I want to leave, but I won't find this anywhere else. Or, you know, if you complain, well, you'll never get this anywhere else, right? Don't believe anybody who says you will never get this anywhere else. Because when I tell you that my God gave me everything that I had, plus more, like, we had a kitchen at my last job. It was nice. This kitchen, at least 3 times the size. At least.
Wow.
Yes.
So she basically just answered the question about how does she know. Well, you guys know, I always ask the question, how do you know God came through for you? So I believe you're saying God came through for you because he answered your prayers of getting something else and he gave you more than what you thought.
Yes.
And sometimes, like, we think it's tangible, but honestly, you also gained a peace of mind too.
Yes. And definitely, like, I trust God with my whole life, right? Good and bad. I know if it's bad, there's a reason behind it. If it's good, there's a reason behind it. It's my job to figure out the reason behind it and act accordingly, right? So a lot of times I actually pray to God to order my steps. And even initially in 2016, when I was having that issue, I prayed about it because I didn't know what to do and I was confused. And yeah, people can give you advice, but there's no advice like what's given to you, right? So by God. So for me, I said I did what I had to do. I didn't act out. I didn't feel like my company owed me anything. A lot of people, even people in the company, told me to sue the company, right? For just certain things. But in my mind, I'm thinking about the big picture. Like, you're telling me to do something, but I don't even know if you would do what you're telling me to do. Just to be honest. And then outside of that, it's like, okay, if you allow God to order your steps, it feels like this landed in my lap. But I know it just came by the grace of God. It really did. And one thing that I want to point out is that at a couple of my jobs, there's a lot of times there's like a scripture that if I stumble across a scripture or something, I'm not gonna lie, I'm not the most biblical knowledge person. I am aware of a lot of stories in the Bible and can summarize them. But as far as telling you where they are or quoting scriptures, it's not me. I'm sorry, it's not.
It's
just
okay.
being honest. But I do, if there's a scripture, not even for the time being, but a scripture that really like touches me, a lot of times I'll have it printed out and it'll be somewhere on my desk or somewhere in sight if I ever need to see it. And so I actually have one that I printed out in 2014 that I had at 2 different jobs. And it's...
I gotta show you guys. It really was 2014. Oh, dang, you guys probably can't see.
Is it?
I try to be like the... Ooh, did it focus? I'm focused. Okay, but this thing does really say 2014.
Yeah, what is it? It's June 27th, 2014. And it's Psalms 37. And I'm not going to read all of it, but essentially it just says, do not fret because of those who are evil or be envious of those who do wrong. For like the grass, they will soon wither. Like green plants, they will soon die away. Trust in the Lord and do good. That right there is literally how I live my life. I'm not a perfect person. You know, I do stumble across the way, but trust in the Lord and do good. That is literally the epitome of me, right? Dwell in land and enjoy safe pasture. Take delight in the Lord and he will give you the desires of your heart. And this testimony is literally like this scripture. Like that is literally what it is. Like, don't fret. Right? Like stuff happens. Keep your cool. And like, as long as you know and you're confident in yourself and you know you're doing good, then you have nothing to worry about. It's when your spirit's not right, right? It's when you're not doing what you're supposed to be doing, when you're not living by your core values that you have, is where things starts to go crazy.
And you know, the main reason why I decided to bring Shewa on, I actually asked her because she was telling me this story, and a lot of us, I think I mentioned this earlier in the video, but a lot of us go through issues at work, or some of us, half of our life is at work, and your life at work is important. Like, it doesn't matter what way you look at it, whether you do a 9-to-5 or you're an entrepreneur or whatever. And a stressful environment can cause you to be in other stressful situations, like she was in the car accident. So I feel like this is such a great way to talk about how you should be more solid in your, I would say, in your relationship with God, but also solid in yourself and do good. And don't just go off just because someone's going off at you at work. So to wrap up this testimony, I kind of want you to just give advice to someone that may be going through a situation, or at least give us a tip on how to deal with going through a situation like this and transitioning out of a terrible job into a new job and knowing that, you know, you don't have to settle for that.
Okay. The first thing I would say is that everybody needs to understand that in life you have choices. And when it comes to work, because work pays for the way we live, it pays for our food, it pays for our livelihood, people are afraid to make choices because they don't know what's next and they don't know what will happen, right? Mm-hmm. So if you understand that you, as a person, hold the power of choice, there's so much power in just knowing that. So I knew that I had a choice from the beginning when I said I didn't know if I was going to get fired or not. I had the choice to stay there, and I did stay. I could have left, but I would have left, and I'm pretty sure I wouldn't have been able to find a better situation. I would have not gotten everything I needed to get out of that experience if I would have left prematurely, right? However, now when it came time to fast forward to present day where I get this job offer, I had the choice to decide, okay, this was pretty fast and it was unexpected. Like, I was open to looking for positions, but I wasn't as aggressive as I expected to have something by a certain point. So I knew I had the choice. Is this for me or is it not? So what did I do? I prayed about it. And because one, I'm going from the thing with some private companies, you can look up reviews all you want about the employer. You barely are going to find anything and if you are, it might be one thing that's misleading. It's never like hundreds of reviews that you'll find at big corporations or public companies. And so I didn't know what to expect, but I stepped out on faith and I decided, okay, it's actually very funny because I went to Mexico right after I got the job offer because I was going for my friend's bachelorette trip, came back from Mexico. And even with the email that the boss had sent me, I actually forwarded it to HR because we had an HR at that time. HR had a conversation with him. He actually kind of confronted me about it on Monday, which is basically illegal because things with HR is confidential. So even though HR can go to you, that's fine. But you bringing up me going to HR and reporting you and basically telling me that in the future that's not something I should do is definitely illegal. Anyways, but it was just funny to see coming back into work and my boss confronted me about going to HR and basically saying that's something I shouldn't do. I should just come to him directly. And then knowing in the back of my mind that at the end of the day, after we get out of this 2-hour meeting that we're in, because again, you have choices and you got to be strategic. So I'm not about to quit at the beginning of the day or at least put in my notice at the beginning of the day. I'm going to wait to the end of the day when I don't have to worry about how he's going to react. And it's like I, waited for the end of the day. I had a conversation with him and I basically told him that I'm leaving. He was like, oh, well, I'm sad to see you go. Like, all that other stuff that people say, the fluff out there. And then outside of that, I literally put in my 2-week notice. I took 3 weeks off of work. I traveled, I did some things that I wanted to do, and then I started a new job. And all that happened because I, one, understood the power of choice that I had, and two, remained firm in my faith and knew that as long as I prayed for something and I prayed for exactly what I needed to pray for, like, Lord, guide my steps. Lord, is this what I need to be doing? Lord, if it's not, please show me a sign, right? Show me something. And there was nothing. And when I started, I was welcomed with open arms. And it's crazy because it's like I'm doing the same job, but different, which is fine. More money, which is a blessing. But also, there's so much more diversity where I work now. Like, where I worked before, sad to say, it was a boys club. If you know what a boys club is, that just means it's a boys club. I'm just leave it at that. Here, so much diversity. The whole boys club atmosphere, I don't have that. There's a lot of inclusion with everybody, with work events. They don't make any one person seem like they're better than another person, no matter what your position is. The president at this company, granted, I had an interview with him. Even in the interview, he told me about a women's group in alternative investments that I should join whether or not I work at the company or not. And he put me in contact with one of the co-chairs there. And he didn't have to do that. He doesn't gain anything by doing that. But that's just something that he did. And that's something that I hadn't experienced before. So him doing that was probably God's sign of showing me this is better. This is something that you should be doing. Mm-hmm. So those are 2 tips that I'll definitely give. Make sure you understand, no matter how afraid you are, you have the power of choice. And 2, trust in the Lord. Well, do good and then trust in the Lord. Do good. You gotta do the good. You can't be bad and like trust in the Lord and think that like everything's just gonna work out the way you want it to. You have to like, what you put out is what you get back. So
that's good. That's just like this book I'm reading. It said, nothing goes for nothing. And I will tell you, Shewa, she is very hardworking, and we can see that, we can hear it in her voice and her tone. But just to wrap up this testimony, because it's so long, but I'm so grateful that you're here. I'm so glad that you shared all of this. So thank you guys for joining me for another Testimony Tuesday. I can't wait till you guys listen to the next one next month.
Yes, and thank you for like having me on here. I'm all about helping people the way I can, and I honestly feel like the experiences that we have in life, if they're not shared, then you're not helping anybody. So you're not playing your role in life by helping the next person. So all I can do, I'm not creative, but all I can do is help by providing examples and insight.
Thank you so much, Shewa. And we'll see you guys next time.
Bye. This will be so funny.